Hello.
I'm still clicking through the allow. Allow.
Well, I started the recording immediately so we
I
could
know, because I knew
capture.
I knew I was going to be ready, and I want to wish you a good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Stefan. How are you?
Cheers. I am
Cheers,
very
indeed.
well. I'm a winner.
Likewise. Yeah,
I'm
tell
feeling
us.
like I'm feeling like a winner.
That's outstanding. Tell me about the whole climbing experience.
Yes. Well, it all started 35 years ago. It all started more than 40 years ago.
That's amazing.
Well, it's funny. Rich and Dan, who are the founders of Vertical World, which is the first indoor rock climbing gym in the world here in
Wow.
Seattle. I met Rich and Dan bouldering down at the University of Washington. There's a little bouldering area where all of us dirtbags used to hang out a long time ago.
Yeah.
For those people who aren't familiar with rock climbing, dirtbag is an affectionate term for climbers who do anything they can in life to just be out climbing. So in a lot of cases, that involves just being dirty and grimy and living out of the back of your car. So
It's great.
I met those guys. And they started a gym, and most of us were all used to climbing and work. There was no working out for rock climbing. You just went and climbed.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there were maybe a few people who were more hardcore, but most of the people who were hardcore climbed.
Regardless of weather and.
Yeah. And so when it's raining, it's pretty hard to rock
Yeah.
climb.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
it gets sketchy. I mean,
Because that seems like the most, like, in my mind, this is why you need a rock climbing gym. It's like for inclement weather, so we can climb anyway.
Yeah, especially climbing in the red rocks down in Nevada, when sandstone gets wet, it becomes brittle. So it becomes super, super dangerous when you're holding onto little flakes and holds. And I have taken a fall in the red rocks, and it was significant. I probably should have gotten stitches for that one, but being a dirtbag, you just do with butterflies, whatever you have.
Yeah, patch it up and keep climbing.
Super glue. I have used super glue on many occasions.
Oh yeah, I learned that from my dad.
Yeah. So these two guys, one was a paralegal, the other was a climbing guide, started a rock climbing gym in Seattle called Vertical World. And we were all kind of long-haired, wearing Lycra tights, climbing people at that time in the 80s. And they had a rock climbing competition there. And they needed people to be judges. So 35 years ago, I was a judge at the first rock climbing competition at Vertical World. And now, 35 years later, I competed in my first rock climbing competition at Vertical World, the annual, although delayed by COVID, 2 years, COVID kind of cut it out, but it is the annual 35th anniversary Summer Slam Masters Division, third place.
Congratulations. So that was your first competitive climb?
Climbing competition, yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, my friend Eric, who I know also from 35 or 40 or so years ago from bouldering down he's still climbing. He's in his 60s. And he brought along a friend named Teresa. Teresa won first in the women's masters. Eric won second in the men's masters, and I got third. So in the masters division, our team Geezer captured half of all the trophies.
That's amazing. That's very cool. What a great feeling. I feel like you're radiating it right through. It's transmitting.
Yeah, it's amazing how things like that, because I went in totally unexpected and also a little bit daunted because for whatever reason, they decided to include 40 plus anybody over 40 in the masters division.
That's a big, yeah, I think we talked about that last time. Like the last time when I used to do a lot of running, masters started at 60 and over.
Yeah, and then now it's gone down to 50. I mean, it used to be 50 for this climbing competition.
But now it's 40. That's, I mean, what an inclusive gap.
Well, I keep thinking, are the 40 somethings feeling weak or worried, or are they feeling it's not fair to compete against the 20 and 30-year-olds?
Yeah, see, that's what, like, I feel like I don't know, like, I mean, as a late 40s, I feel like 40s and 50s is a great category, but we're nowhere where you are in your 20s and 30s. I feel like you're actually in your prime in your 30s usually. Like as far as my abilities in running, like I did the most running in my 20s, but I was more prolific at running in my 30s. Like if that makes sense. I was just more,
yes,
you know, it
well,
just came more easily.
Research shows that women peak in running much later, in their late 30s, even early 40s, especially for women distance runners, because there's a certain, the level of skill and knowledge and all of those things build up, and also confidence.
Yeah. It's so mental. I feel like running in so many ways, and I mean, climb anything really athletic, I think. And like I did my marathon. I've only done one full length marathon, the 26.2 miles. And it was in my late 20s. I was 27, so exactly 20 years ago. And it was a great experience. And I actually I wanted to start ultra marathoning after that. Like immediately upon finishing, I was like, I want more. But I ended up taking the career path instead. And so I just kind of put running on the back burner and eventually stopped running altogether.
Yeah. Well, to run at my age regularly takes some meticulous thought and training. I know from playing basketball every week for the last, well, outside of COVID, but let's say for the last 15 years, that I had to have a very specific weightlifting routine to make sure that my knees and everything, my knees and especially my Achilles were strong. There were, let's say in 15 years, I maybe was only hobbled once or twice with a hamstring, and also maybe with a misaligned back. But the key for me was doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Once a week. That's it.
For me, that's been something too. After 40, for women, just the way our bones work, the weightlifting becomes incrementally more important. But then also walking, if you're a runner or not, kind of, if you're a runner, then run. But the at least walking, a mile or two a day it becomes more and more important to do that. We had a good walk this morning.
Have we ever talked about Sexy Monk?
I don't think so.
Walking? Okay, well, you would remember if we did. 'Cause everybody remembers Sexy Monk. My pal Bryce, who was paralyzed in a paragliding accident, he's no longer paralyzed, so don't worry.
Oh, that's good. That's miraculous.
He's walking, and he's done double backflip skiing and stuff since. And he's maybe a year older than me, so he's 62 probably. And he's still got the mindset of a 25-year-old. He has learned nothing from his accidents in life. He's still fully exuberant and hammering as if he's 25.
I want to come back to that point, the mindset of 25, but continue first.
Yeah, so that's Bryce. And he's been my buddy since, I met him before he had a paragliding accident, which is where he shattered his spine, shattered some lumbar vertebra, and became paralyzed for several years, and then came out of it. So his story is kind of a miracle of focus and intention. And he at that time of this injury and laying in the hospital bed and having multiple surgeries and the doctors telling him you're never going to walk again, he opened himself up to every kind of thing imaginable. Like people, his friends would come in and they would do laying on of hands, and he'd let them pray, whatever, right? Completely open to whatever energy he could receive that would focus him to, moving forward in this recovery, right?
Yeah,
All of his
amazing.
energy. And one of the people that he worked with was Dr. Carl. Dr. Carl is now probably in his mid to maybe he's in his mid 80s. And Dr. Carl Yelstrup is a Norwegian guy who also has the energy of a 20-year-old. He cross-country skis, he downhill skis. He goes to Norway every winter to cross-country ski. And he's just got juice. When he meets you, perfect posture, puts his hand out, shakes your hand, how's it going? I went into his office one day and I told him I was a friend of Bryce, and he goes, "Oh man, that guy Bryce, you shake his hand and it's like taking vitamins."
I love that. That's amazing.
So one of the the first time I went to Dr. Carl's office, I had some spasm in my back, and he just started telling me he just went into talking about all kinds of things, epigenetics. And I mean, he just went on a rant. He saw me and he went on a rant. And the first thing out of his mouth was like, "Oh man, I'm not going to make a lot of money on you." So he started giving me his secrets, right? Like and it's that, it's the energy and the focus and the belief, this kind of 25, he has this belief in that there's more, and that life is energetic, and that we have power over the energy coming in and out of our lives. And if anything, my friend Bryce is a testament to that, because I thought when he had first become injured and I visited him in the hospital, it was pretty grim. But I went in there, I don't know, it was summer and there was cherries in the market, and I just get this fresh bag of cherries, and Bryce will tell this same story. And I go in, and I was determined not to be sad for him, because I knew he was a bright human being. And I just go into the room and I go, "I brought you some cherries." Like, this is the best part of your day.
That's great.
And maybe a year or two later, I'm walking downtown and I see this guy. He's just walking like the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. From the Wizard of Oz, right? He's got a French blue felt sport coat on, which nobody in Seattle wears felt blue French sport coats. So I see this guy in front of me. He's moving like this, and I'm like, "Who is that guy?"
That guy's amazing. Yeah.
And then, because he's doing the Monty Python School of Silly Walks, basically, in a blue blazer, in a blue sport coat, and I get up to him and I go, "Bryce, what the fuck?"
Right?
You're walking.
This guy. Yeah, and he's walking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And he's just like
doing it.
Yeah.
Like he's so competitive, so mentally determined, right? That he's the quintessential underdog.
That's really awesome.
I think he grew up in a family of 5 brothers, and his father was during the, let's say, the Eisenhower era, his father was the pilot of Air Force One.
Oh wow.
So also has that military background, right? And so we both know that kind of energy that you grow up in those kind of families. except I think for him, it was really compounded because there were 5 boys.
Wow.
And then his mom got divorced from his dad. And so then it was just his mom raising 5 boys.
Oh, wow.
And so I think of like, the boys trying to step into that father role and the level of competition. And then Bryce is just a little scrawny guy on the end of the totem pole.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's really cool though.
Yeah. But so that's the one thing that I really love and enjoy about Bryce is he understands energy and he understands focus and how it affects performance and healing and everything else. And we prove that over the years. Every year they have a big 4th of July barbecue and they have a basketball court out on their property north of Seattle.
Ah,
and the
so
geezers, cool. Right, the 60 somethings, we all get together and we play the 20 somethings in basketball. And I don't know that we've ever been beat. Maybe once or twice, but in best of 3 or best of 5, never.
That's great.
The old wily guys have, and Bryce can't really run. I mean, he plays soccer, but he kind of shuffles a little bit just because he's still partially paralyzed. Everything
he
doesn't
was
all
paralyzed.
He was
he
paralyzed.
Could move at all is kind of amazing. So yeah, whatever he's got going on.
And also when he plays volleyball, I'm not involved in the 4th of July volleyball tournament, but also he crushes in the 4th of July volleyball tournament. So that's
great.
All of those things are great moments of pride for us as we get older. And it is an affirmation that our effort and our focus has a very strong material effect over people who are much younger than us. And for the most part, maybe they haven't given up, but their focus has changed, right? They're not climbing, they're not playing basketball, they're not doing things that are challenging them physically or mentally. Yeah. And because I am in this body and because this body has been so wonderful to me, I've enjoyed it so much, I'm going to keep enjoying it as much as possible, right? I'm going to ride it for all it's worth.
I had to do I was typing just now because there's a movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called If You're Not in the Obit, like the obituaries, If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast. Have you seen that one?
No, If You're Not in the Obituaries, Eat Breakfast.
Yeah, it's If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, but it's by it's a documentary and it's Carl Reiner. And he was in his 90s, right? And
he's wonderful.
Yeah, and he just like, it's really cool. Like he in somewhere along there, it's been years since I saw it, but I think it's on HBO right now. But if you get a chance to check it out. But it's about how like 90s are kind of like the new 60s. And, like if you were active in your 60s a decade ago, it was really something. But now it's like shifted to the 90s, like in your 90s, all of these, guys in their 90s or people, it's not just guys, but all these people in this documentary are in their 90s. And he really talks about how they're having some of the best years of their lives, and it's really neat.
Yeah, there is an episode of Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars and Coffee, where he visits with Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks.
Yes, I saw that one.
Right, who have lunch together for whatever 50, the past 50 years or
exactly
until Mel Brooks passed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And I think he's in this, Mel Brooks. Yeah. I think he's in this movie too. But yeah, it's really neat. And it just, that reminds me so much of what, some of the stuff that you were talking about, how, like just I don't know, mentally, the mental, your facilities and everything, your faculties are still going, like for a lot of us. And a lot of it is, so much of the stuff that we've talked about in previous conversations like this, like the energy and the just making a decision that this is how my day is going to go, and making it all contributes to this. And when you talk about your friend who was paralyzed, who, you know,
Yes.
now walks, is kind of an interesting shuffle, but what, you know, what an amazing energy that he brings to that, and is able to through
Yes.
through
Yeah.
this, you know, through mental resonance, really. I just think it's amazing.
Well, he got the people and the support he opened up, and the people and the support he needed came into his life. And also I mean, he was a speed skier and a mogul skier, and right. I mean, he's kind of a local legend here in the
Yeah.
Northwest. He's
That's
got a
right.
big, I mean, you would actually really enjoy seeing his basement, because it is thousands of pieces of ski gear, skis, suits
Over the
from
decades.
the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That's really
So
cool.
they do these kind of vintage ski days up at Stevens Pass, and Bryce is the guy who supplies everybody with their vintage gear, right? So
That's really
everybody,
cool.
right? So everybody is in like yellow and rainbow colors, and
Yeah, man, that's so cool.
lycra and puffy pants,
But
and
like original generation, not the refactored.
no, this is all the legit vintage
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
Yeah,
so
it
cool.
is. Yeah, I mean, it is there's nobody who has that. There's nobody in the US who has all that stuff in their basement.
That's so cool.
I
Yeah.
don't know what he's going to do with all of it. I mean, it's
I
like
hope it finds a really good home, because that's, you know, what an amazing collection.
yeah, I mean, it could go wherever the mogul skiing Hall of Fame is, they got
Yeah,
to be calling Bryce up.
that's really cool, man.
So you were going to talk about 25-year-old energy.
You know, it kind of like goes back even to that documentary I just referenced. It's been a while, maybe a decade, but I remember having a conversation with Ken's parents where, you know, one thing I love about Ken's parents is they'll get talking and telling stories, and there's just so much laughter and joy. And I honestly couldn't tell you how old they are right now. I want to say 70s, but I mean, I don't know. But I remember when we had this conversation, I think they were fresh in the 70s, and Marg, Ken's mom, said, like, she made the comment, she's like, it's so strange as you age, I don't feel any different in my mind. I feel exactly the same. My body starts doing things that, you know, things start breaking down or become more fragile or whatever. But so it's like his parents are always out there, you know, they have a lakeside property with a lot of trees and leaves, and you know it requires a lot of maintenance, but they go do it themselves. They're always out breaking leaves and picking up branches and plowing snow and shoveling the walks, and you know, I mean, they're just so busy all the time, and I love it. I love that, though. That's always stuck with me, that little piece that she said. She's like, I don't feel any different in here in my mind, and I still feel like I did in my 20s, you know? And I relate to that even, you know, in my 40s, as I get to the latter end of my 40s, I'm like, I don't feel any different than I did in my 20s. I mean, yes, physiologically, some things change and you have to modify for those things. But in my mind, I still feel like exactly the same in a lot of ways. You gather wisdoms and you learn things. I mean, like these conversations, to me, this is learning, like constant learning.
Mhm.
And just because I learn a thing doesn't mean I'm immediately good at it either. So there's like this ongoing practice and trying to become better over time. But there's also this youthfulness that lingers, that I feel it's innately in my system. And I feel like I hear that with you too.
Yeah, I don't, I think the more we get to the core of who we are, the younger it feels to the people around us, right? Because
Yeah.
this, this is, this is what happens to humans as they get older. Their frameworks get more rigid, and bigger and bigger. And so all of a sudden, who they are or who they project that they are is constrained by the framework. But when
Yeah.
you're a child and you're young and exuberant, the expression is so pure and it's curious, right? All children are naturally curious. All children want to know, what is it like to be an adult human, right? They
Yeah.
want to hang out. When children are really small, they
Yeah.
want to hang out with you. They want to try things out, right? Like they see you in the kitchen, they want to grab that spoon, they want to stir
Touch the hot thing.
right? They want to
Yeah.
put their hand on the stove.
Yep. See what the fire is. And yeah, but
Yeah.
the curiosity is absolutely. And
Yeah. And so we spend most of our lives building a framework thinking that that's who we are, but who we are is constantly being hidden by the framework and the habituations that result in our lives.
yeah.
And so the trick to staying young is to being open, is to letting go of the framework and revealing that which that we already are, that we have always been, that we always will be, without the material and psychological constraints that we place on our lives.
That's it's funny is Ken and we've been walking together this last week with our little dog Ernie, and you know, it's been really nice having Ken walk with me. I think it's been good for him. It's been good for me. Ernie loves it when we're both there. And so it's been kind of a shift in my normal routine. I've been kind of reworking routines lately just to find a rhythm that, I don't know, feels positive and growing. And so yeah, we've been kind of just, we don't have a set schedule per se, but it's like we have a couple things we do and then we go for our walk when it's time, right? And so we've been going for these walks, and the last couple times we've discovered, so not far from where I live, there's this really nice state park called Floyd Lamb State Park.
Oh yes,
And
yeah.
so like we walk there a lot. Like I have a park in my neighborhood, which is where I've been walking for like the last 2 years. But then there's like this really cool walking trail off of the Gilcrease Orchard that's also very close by. And then there's the Floyd Lamb State Park, but there's this whole network of trails outside the park. And we've kind of just been expanding the area that we cover. You know, in our little walks, we're like, ooh, where does that one go? Where does that one go? Where does that trail lead? You know, and like yesterday, we discovered this whole network of trails we didn't know existed. And, you know, today I chuckled about it because we kind of picked up where we left off yesterday and extended out to see how far we could go without, you know, but it was just kind of a small example to me of exactly what you and I talk about, but it was like this real world example of like, the world is always bigger than you think it is. There's
Yes.
always something to uncover and something to discover if you just go outside your normal boundaries and your normal comfort. If you just push it away, there's more. There's just a never ending realm of more. And it's neat.
And that concept, an analogous when you apply it. I mean, ultimately, when you apply it or when we apply it to ourselves, there is always more of ourselves to discover. There's
Yeah.
an infinite number of possibilities for us. And we, again, harking back to our birth, we were infinite when we were born. And from the moment we were born, depending on the hospital and the doctor who might have slapped our butt and the and the people who took care of us along the way, and everything else beyond that started constraining who we are, started constraining the purest expression of who we are. It started channeling it into something that was more, let's say, comfortable or more understandable for our family and our community, our society. right? We were channeled into that. But at the beginning, we were infinite. And
Yep.
just like that Caddyshack, just like that Caddyshack joke, you will have total consciousness upon your death. We're in between, where we start fully conscious, a fully formed spiritual being that is infinite in the amount of possibilities. And then depending on the material environment and the social environment and the spiritual environment, that just gets constrained along the way.
Yeah.
And then our job, I feel like my spiritual job, now that I am more aware of who I am, and more interested in my own infinite expression, everything is about letting go more access to these infinite possibilities for myself. And it's right. I mean, we see that in our children, when they are born, I looked at my daughter and I thought, oh my gosh, anything could happen. Anything could happen here to this little nugget. Right.
Yep. I see it all the time and I have two daughters with two very different personalities. And it's funny because Sophia, my older, she's 17, first job. We were actually talking about this on our way home about some of the differences between the two. Because like Sophia said, I'm always so afraid to get in trouble that I, err on the side of overly cautious. Whereas her sister tends to have no fear. I mean, really, like there's just a complete lack of fear of what will happen if I do this dangerous thing. And so like as a parent of someone who has a scary amount of lack of fear, a scary lack of fear. It's frightening to me, but at the same time, I am always aware, like, I don't want to smash that out of her. I don't want to constrain her so much that she loses that ability. I just want to shift it toward positive things. Whereas like she tends to gravitate toward a lot of, I don't know if danger is the right word, but maybe less
risky.
Very risky, very, drugs or, like the darker side of life, I guess.
Yeah.
She gravitates toward the darker side where like there's so much, I think if you want to like feel high, like get addicted to climbing, get addicted to running, get addicted to something that gives those endorphins, and like you'll feel an amazing high. It's just like start there.
I was thinking go-kart racing, rock climbing.
Yeah. Speed, adrenaline,
downhill mountain biking.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I need to get her on like a snowboard. I need mountain bike. We've gotten her on a mountain bike. She loves that. So we need to do that more. And a lot of it, her constraints come through us. She's 13 and not allowed to just go do stuff by herself sometimes for safety reasons, as a 13-year-old girl who looks easily 17. She's 5'10" and just tall and she looks a lot older than she is, but it's just anyway. So like there you can see it even with kids, like there's this spirit of curiosity and wanting to try everything. And we apply constraints. At the same time, like my approach is always like, I want to apply certain constraints, but I also don't want to apply so many constraints I strip her of who she is, who is different than who I am. I don't want to make her a replica of me because
I think the thing is can you provide more opportunities than constraints? That's the trick.
That's such a great way to frame it, because that's exactly what it is. It's like opportunities in a healthier direction. Opportunities is like, we can solve the same problem. As you and I have talked about, there might be a million ways to get, from A to Z, a million paths. and you know, only 6 of them are the dark dangerous side, and you
Yeah.
know, there are a million other, almost a million other ways to get to the same solve the same problem, and maybe
Yeah, but
arrive at the destination you want to arrive at.
well, and the thing is if the only solution we have is saying, don't think of the pink elephant, don't think of the pink elephant, then
That's
that's
not a
all people,
solution at all.
that's
Yeah,
all someone will do is think of the pink elephant
exactly.
instead of like, how about rock climbing next week? How
Yeah,
about go-karting next week? How about downhill mountain biking
yeah. And
tomorrow?
that is
How about,
something that I've been
you
working
know,
on. So let's try this, and I'll do it with them. You know, I'll do it with her. Like she really likes the Lyra, and we've been doing that a lot. And
yeah.
yeah,
Just think 45 years from now, she could be a master's podium. She could be on the master's podium at some
seriously,
climbing gym.
man, it's true. It's true. Wow, what a wild bit of things. Oh
Yeah.
man, I
I mean,
do.
again, it's always the trick of, we think of safety, but that's always worrying about the future instead of, right? I mean,
I
safety, thinking when we think of safety, it is an unnatural worry about the future, and then we place constraints upon the path to a
yeah,
potential future that may or may not exist,
right.
instead of paving a path to a number of possibilities that also don't exist but are much better than the worry, or the negative bet that we
Overly
have on the future.
cautious.
Yeah,
Well,
because
and see, when you said that, like I always think people always say safety first or whatever. And as a joke, I used to always say, not in our house, safety third. And I would say safety third after fun and danger. And like, and then I think about like, I might have actually caused this gravitation toward danger
yeah,
in a way
sure.
that I didn't mean to. You know, but like when I think of danger, I think of going really fast and, you know, like downhill on a bike or whatever. Like that's danger to me, not drugs
Yeah.
and not like, you know, but
Well,
that's everybody's idea of danger is different. You know,
well,
that's,
maybe then the just change the word to exhilaration,
yeah,
right?
instead of
Joy,
danger.
joy is the first, joy is the first priority. Exhilaration is the second priority. And you could even have a, a, a healthy, fit uh, meat sack,
Yeah, you
right?
know,
Right? Like a healthy, fit, integrous physical vehicle, and then exhilaration. But all of those, just to, because everybody else, like when they think danger, it's like, I, you know, it's dumb things that people say, like, oh, did you drive here? No, I rode my bicycle. Oh, make sure you wear a helmet, be safe.
you're like,
And I'm just like, I'm 61 years old. I've been riding this bicycle. I have been riding this bicycle in Seattle for whatever, 40 plus years.
you know, that actually, that brings up a whole, it's probably like a whole nother avenue of thought, but it's the things you hear and repeat without thinking about though, right? Like it's kind
Yes.
of just to fill space, it's conversational. But like if we would really think about some of the things that we're regurgitating or restating or, you know, like, ha, 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 they're just like these little things that we say that are so meaningless. And so, or maybe they mean something, but it so doesn't apply. Like, but if we would think more about those things, being more thoughtful and more mindful about the words that come out of our mouths, that's really something I feel like these conversations has illuminated for me. And I still, like I said earlier in this conversation, just because I learn something new doesn't mean I'm immediately good at it. And
No.
I have to practice like a lot of this stuff that we've talked about. I feel like like I want to immediately be good at it, but I'm not. And like I stumble in my own thoughts, I stumble in my actions, and I stumble in getting hung up on things that I don't need to get hung up on. And it takes me a minute to realize that that's what's happening. But that awareness has helped me. It's helping me. Like I feel like I'm in a process right now, and it's a process of practice. And it's the awareness first. Like I have to realize that, oh, I'm doing that thing, which I wouldn't have even realized 2 months ago, probably, that I do this thing.
Yeah, we are constantly this process, this spiritual awakening, or whatever we want to call it. Again, if even calling it a spiritual awakening is limiting, but it is a path of becoming more personally aware.
Yeah.
We are stalking ourselves, right? We are observing ourselves, and then we are judging whether or not that is a more authentic version of who we are, or is that the path we want to make for ourselves, and what is a more unlimited view of who we are? Because again, we are unlimited. We were born unlimited.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens wherever we grew up, whatever our parents were, whatever the neighborhood and the community, all of those things placed boundaries on our little unlimited selves. And this is universal. Babies all over the world, right? They might grow up in poverty or hunger or war, and all of that places constraints on their little unlimited beingness. And then they spend their whole lives, some of them becoming incredible leaders and successful business people and champions within their own communities. And somehow they have transcended the framework that was set up for them. Right? I mean, there are plenty of these success stories, and then I guess this is the argument that Republicans use for pick yourself up by your bootstraps, but we all have to be lucky along the way.
Yeah.
Right? I am clear that my path is not without a great deal of luck, and then I just happen to be aware and make some good choices. And then the more aware I became and the better choices I made, that built upon and got me here to this moment.
Yeah.
But the point is, again, we're just trying to let go of all of these limitations that have been placed on us.
I think that's it. Like that's it. That's the work. That's where it's interesting that's where it takes so much to untangle what's been wrapped around us our whole lives, sort of, and just kind of, unravel it and realize that it's unravelable.
Yeah, it is, because everything that is imposed upon us is arbitrary, right? All of it. Everything that has been imposed upon us, what we call the real world, it's arbitrary. Somebody else made it up for us. And then we all collectively agreed to it.
Yeah. And
60 mile an hour speed limit.
Yeah.
Wear your seatbelts. Put your helmet on. All of these things are arbitrary based on the bets and fears and thoughts and creative ideas people had about the future. And here we are in the future, and we are surrounded by let's say a meta framework that was arbitrary and created for us, and that we buy into. And religion is the same thing, and laws are the same thing, and community guidelines, and it's all arbitrary.
I think it's I always go back to, and I know I said it in one of our earlier conversations, but it's like that frameworks make it easier to function sometimes. It's just easier than
because
the lack of frameworks.
everyone agrees to them, right? If
Right.
everyone agrees, they get out of your way.
But it's like the art school example. When I was in art school, they would like, anytime they give you a framework to work within, you go and you execute the assignment and you're done. And, it's a challenge, but it's a challenge with the framework. But every once in a while you'd get a teacher that's like, no rules, go do your piece, and you'd just be paralyzed with, there's no framework there. There's no structure. There's no guidance. It's just, you can do literally anything you want. And it's just wide open, any material, any theme, and you're overwhelmed almost with options and ideas. It's like the only thing that you have is you have a due date. It's like you got 2 weeks and you got to do anything that you want to do in 2 weeks that you think fulfills this assignment of do anything that you want to do in this class for 2 weeks.
We could call that fear of the unlimited, or fear of God, or fear of our own infinite nature. And also that because we are so used to being told what to do, or their laws and rules, and all of those are for good reason, because we are murderous apes.
Yeah. We're
murderous apes in fancy clothes.
Without boundaries, we do have a lot of not awesome tendencies, I think.
But we are also
creatures.
Creative, catalytic, unlimited beings that with a decisive mindset can do really beautiful things, right?
Yeah.
We can pursue beauty, we can pursue the infinite but that is dangerous, right? Because we live in this world where everything is prescribed for us for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. Get a college education, get a car, get a job, get a home, all of these things that have created great material wealth, but great material wealth and shareholder value are not the ultimate, at least for me, they are not the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
That's not the ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is having joy every day and experiencing my own infinite nature and enjoying the infinite nature and the creative joy of the people around me.
Yeah.
And doing that forever until I am done, until whatever next happens.
Have we talked about the Steve Jobs poke life quote on this show?
We have a little bit, but those are always worth revisiting.
It's one of those things that's long inspired me. I used to quote it in a lot of my talks because it's Steve Jobs. If you Google Steve Jobs poke life, there's a video on YouTube, and it was just like Santa Clara University did an interview with Steve Jobs, and he says, and I won't do an exact quote here, but he's like, life is, we're taught to grow up, get a job, kind of like what you were saying, try not to bash into the walls too much, have a nice family life. And he's like, but that's a very limited life. What he's learned that is if you poke life, something will come out or happen over here. And so you get into the habit of poking life, and it's a lot bigger when you start doing that. And, he obviously puts it a lot more eloquently, and maybe we can provide a link to that in the show notes, but it's really worth listening to that interview, the Poke Life interview by Steve Jobs. It's truly one that inspires me all the time. I go back to it and think about it all the time in, imagination, and really the more that I have poked life in my own, my own path, the more that I've kind of like poked at things just to see what happens. I always refer to myself as a professional experimentalist. That's my
Mm-hmm.
job. When people ask me what I do, that's what I do. I experiment and just figure stuff out as I go. But the more that I've done that, the more that has unfolded in such a beautiful way for me. And, you know, and I've had financial success, I think, in a lot of ways, and a lot of freedom because of that. And yeah, you know, it's just, it's like one thing has led to another, and it's being able to let go of, this is the way it's done, and this is the way we're supposed to do things. And I get a lot of that from my dad too, you know, like my dad always said, oh, I didn't care if we had to live in a tent, you know, just like who cares if we have a mortgage and kids, like whatever, I'm not going to do something I'm miserable doing. Are you kidding me? And, you
Yeah.
know, it's just like, whatever. I'm going to do what I really love doing. And, you know, and he died riding his motorcycle, which was something he absolutely loved doing. And yes, it was an accident, you know, that happened, but he was riding home that day. Like what
Yes.
a, you know, you couldn't ask for a better way to go, honestly, and than doing a thing that you love doing. And
Yes.
that is baked within me, you know, it's like, it's instilled in me that if you want to die doing something you love, do more of what you love all the time, so that you really eliminate the opportunity of dying doing something you don't love.
Yeah. Well, the dying in boredom or dying in loneliness is not interesting to me. I'm not interested.
Well, and loneliness is such an interesting term too, because there's like, I enjoy the space I get to spend with myself because I don't get a lot
Yes.
of alone time, but like I do enjoy that time very much. Like finding space for just me is a treasured moment right now at this point in my life.
Well,
Um,
any one of us who have been a parent can appreciate that for sure.
but I know
What
what you
you,
mean,
well,
loneliness.
what you are getting at though, is another core thing that I am working on, which is to be my own best friend, right? To enjoy my time with myself
Yeah.
in all of the little things, to give myself things that when I was younger, I might never have expected or even asked for. And then to take advantage of all the things that I have created, whether it's, you know, now we have a sailboat, you know, our little sailboat, and I've been taking people out left and right, taking people out sailing
I love it.
to see if they like it, to see how I like sailing with them. And also I've been just going out by myself and really learning the boat
I love
so
that.
that so that Francis, which is the name of this particular boat, so that Francis and I are really familiar with each other.
Yeah.
And I can enjoy Francis in almost any wind or weather condition now, single-handed, which earlier in, you know, the year previous would have been much more daunting for me to
Yeah.
single hand this boat, because it's just on the edge where it's a sporty boat and it's big, and if you get blown over and you're handing, there's no way a single person could right this boat again. So it is risky if you don't know how to sail,
Yeah.
Francis.
That's interesting.
Francis will toss you, and then and then
Francis
you
and the sea.
Francis will be a turtle. Francis will be a turtle and will not be sailing unless you get somebody to help you turn Francis back over. But the point of all that is to be my own best friend, to live the thing that we've been saying here in and amongst a few of my friends is, you have to live your best life no matter what is going on around. The one thing that is still required of you, no matter what is happening, is to live your best life, because from that place, everything else will be clearer, more easy to understand. There will be more knowledge there. There will be less fear there. There will be more joy in that place. Whereas if we are constantly trying to worry about the future or what other people are doing or finding people to make us feel better. And the thing I think about when I think about lonely, it's like the thing that brings me joy is to be in these moments, like when we're here together, we both can generate and have a good load of joy on, and then we're exchanging it, and it
Yeah.
builds and it builds and it builds, and then when we get done, I've got that buzz coming
Yeah.
out the top of my head.
Yep. Me too.
Right, there's the
And that's what you're
buzz.
putting out when you leave into the world too, right?
Right.
When we leave
I mean,
this.
after I stood on the podium at that rock climbing competition on Friday night, and they had beer there. You weren't, you know, obviously you couldn't drink beer while you were competing, but afterwards, and it was like 9 o'clock, the competition ended. And then it took a half an hour to an hour to hand out all the prizes and announce everything. And there were raffles, and it was just a big, party. I had one beer and then maybe half a beer before that I got called up to the podium, and I was so excited. I felt so good, so high. And it
Yeah.
wasn't just one beer. And then I came home and I was still wired, right? I was
Yeah.
still like, wow, I really surprised myself. I really stuck with it. I didn't judge myself whether I could finish something or not finish something, or that was
Yeah.
too hard. It was just like, I didn't get that climb. Let's find another one I can do. Let's find another one. And then I actually surprised myself. I got most of my points in the bouldering cave, in the bouldering room, which is, I don't do a lot of bouldering. I mean, I
Yeah.
used to, 30 years ago, I used to do a lot of bouldering, and I got good at it. But now I just free climb, lead climb, and do things that are really much more endurance oriented. But I went in the bouldering room and I got most of my points in there,
Uh,
just doing stuff because the memory of it was in my body. But in the end, I was just so high that by the time I got to bed, it was like 2 a.m.
yeah.
And then I woke up and I was like, I'll be damned. I got a hangover.
Yeah.
I
You know,
was so high. I got a hangover from one and a half beers.
that's so funny. That feeling though, that just electric, like amazingness. I mean, the last week was your birthday and we had our call, and I just felt like, like at high velocity electric
Yeah.
currency, like all day. Like I just like coasted on that for hours and hours. And I have to tell you, like this week, I mentioned like kind of shifting and experimenting with my schedule and stuff, and walking with Ken in the morning out at Floyd Lamb. Like every morning when we drive out there, and it's like a 5-minute drive, and then we get out of the car and the sun's coming up and the air is crisp and beautiful, and like the sky is all of these amazing colors, and like I feel that energy over and over again, and it's like that's how I'm starting my day right now, and I love it. It's such a beautiful way to start the day. And with my partner and my little dog, who Ernie is sort of like the example of enthusiasm that I want. Dogs like, oh, so we're like, Ernie, do you want to go for a walk? And he's like, oh my God, like he's so excited. He can't even contain it. And that energy
Yeah.
that he has about that, that's how I'm starting to feel. And I feel like it's all working together, to just like keep threading these moments together.
I had that very same experience, and I used that very same metaphor yesterday.
The dog.
The dog metaphor.
Yeah.
The wind was piping up, and one of my best college pals from 40 years ago moved back to Seattle. So we just started hanging out. I said, just come out, let's go sailing.
Yeah.
And well, one thing is it's just super nice to know somebody who I really enjoyed and was one of my best pals 40 years ago. He still has that same, he's still the same human, right, that
I
I
love
enjoyed
that.
40 years ago. And so that's really fun. So I could really be myself. So we're on the boat, or we're getting the boat ready, and I'm rigging it up. And I just tell him, I am right now, when the wind is like this and I'm on the boat, I'm just like a dog at the door waiting for my owner to grab the leash.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just so
it.
excited. And I'm so in a hurry to get the boat rigged up and ready to go. And so we got on the boat, I put him at the tiller, and then we sailed off, and we're 50 yards from the dock, and I go, oh darn, we forgot the life jackets. so we just sail back, pick up the life jackets, and go, okay, now we're ready,
We
let's
just
go.
start over. Take two. That's so
But
funny.
That's the thing, is the dog is just pure joy. The dog is expressing pure joy in
Yeah.
the moment, anticipating something that they know is going to be absolutely positive.
Yep. Is the best part of his life in that moment. And it's
Well, the other thing I think that's important is that you go out to that place that's so singular and so beautiful, but the energy is not coming from that place. It's coming from you because you put yourself in that place.
yeah.
You are the one generating and opening to that energy that's available anywhere, anytime, any place. Because if it isn't, then it's kind of bullshit. Then we're just in the material world trying to
Yeah.
accumulate experiences and buy this or get that. But what's happening is we are putting ourselves in these singular locations, and that strips away the frameworks that are constraining this joy, right? It's just easier to feel constrained when we're home, but the decision to feel that way is ours and ours alone. And the
Yeah.
decision to open up to this energy is ours and ours alone. So when we leave our phone behind for a moment, or when we go out for that walk in the wilderness, we have left behind some of the frameworks. Or when we do the Steve Jobs, when we poke life and we do something radical or do something different, we find out more. One, we find out, if we're paying attention, where our own arbitrary constraints are, where our frameworks have taken us. And then we discover that there's more. And in that, we can open up to the joy. But no matter where we go, we are the ones that are opening up to the joy. It's not the park that's giving you that.
Right.
You are the one that's giving yourself that. You are the one that's opening up to the universal source of joy and energy that's available everywhere. It's available when we were talking about last week of like, oh my God, my shower is awesome.
Yeah,
Or, I love my comfy bed. Or, oh man, rye toast and butter. Heck yeah.
It's so true. And that's like Ken made me a little, like an egg McMuffin or whatever today on my little grain English muffin, whole grain English muffin with the little egg. And it was an incredible breakfast sandwich. It was incredible. But yeah, it is. It's those, and the fact that he made it for me so I didn't have to. I mean, like my hunger was filled by kindness, the kindness of someone else. And yeah, I like those moments. Man, yeah, I love that stuff. And I think these conversations again, and I feel like I say the same thing every week, and I might, but like these conversations have brought it to center focus, where I'm saying like, this is how I'm feeling. This is how I want to feel more. And this is sort of my, like, a lot goes on every day of everyone's life. Like we all have a lot of things going on, but to take a minute to come back to that reminder, this is what I want to feel. this is how I want things to go. How can I thread these moments together throughout everything else that does pop up? And like the mindfulness is really causing the shift to happen.
Yes.
Like in bigger, more amazing ways too. Like, I mean, I just feel like there's so much happening right now in my little world that is all just looks like I don't know how else to explain it. It's just like everything is looking up and coming out of, you know, a pandemic, coming out of like everybody's had interesting experiences, and we've certainly had some experiences here. But it just feels like the tides are turning in the most optimistic and positive way. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Well, it's a testament to your self-discipline, right? Because all of this is just practice, practice letting go,
Yeah.
practice opening up, practice observing,
You hear that sound?
the tearing.
I have a cat attacking paper over in the distance. I didn't know if that.
Oh, that's what that's been. I've turned the mute on my mic on and off just to see if is that sound coming from my.
I'm so sorry. I wasn't sure if my mic was picking it up or not. It was like,
yeah,
yeah.
It does sound like somebody tearing paper.
Yeah, it's one or maybe two cats attacking a big ball of paper that I didn't even know was out on the floor. I was
nice.
So apologies for that background sound throughout the episode.
To our now two listeners. Thanks. Thank you, folks, for sticking with us through these technical glitches.
To our learning, so I'll start muting in between.
Wow, no.
When cats are there. Eventually, one day, I'll get my own little private space. But this is my room is one great big room of open space that is shared with cats and kids and whatnot. So that's what I got to work with right now.
Yeah, well, they are all residents of your home.
So yeah, we do the best we can with what we've got. But,
well, it's pretty good.
So far, so good.
It's pretty good, and it's just getting better as far as I can tell.
This feels like a perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other things that I could talk about, but the one thing I'm clear about is that if we have shifts to the schedule, there's a buildup of energy that happens for me prior to this that if we go too long, I feel like I miss an opportunity to capitalize on what's been happening or what we're going through. And so I'd rather do, like, if the option is to do a shorter interval versus a longer interval between when we do this. So like, even if we do this today on Sunday, I would be up for doing this again on Thursday.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. From wherever you are in Hawaii on holiday. I really enjoy that because I think the perspective shift, right, will open up new things, right? And you'll be there with your kids.
Yeah.
There'll be whatever. I think there's opportunities, and the longer we go, the less we get a chance to kind of, let's say, catalyze these opportunities.
Well, yeah, if you're up for this Thursday feels like the right day, right? Like, I know I'll have time. I know I'll be there. I'll be at the Airbnb, and it looks like a beautiful, beautiful location on the Big Island. And I think, let's plan to do that. And then we could do again on that Sunday after, if you're okay with that, like Thursday, Sunday.
Heck yeah, that'd be great.
Because then I have that project kicking off where I'm going to be a little like sort of blocked in, I mean, I created that, but it was to work with what they had to work with. So I was like, all right, let's just do this. Let's go all in for 2 weeks. And then we can open it back up. So.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take this buzz into the rest of the weekend here.
Yeah, me too. And thank you so much. And congratulations again on the
Thank
climb
you,
stuff. That's so
man.
cool.
I just hope that, I just hope that Vertical World posts photos of us geezers on the podium,
I hope so
because
too.
all of us who were on the podium were in their late 50s, or like the winner was probably in his late 50s. He could have also been in his 60s
That's awesome.
easily. And Eric, my buddy who was in second, he's in his 60s. I'm 61. And so I felt like in the Masters division from 40 years up, we really did the geezers proud.
You
And I'm gonna,
represented.
if they post pictures, you'll see that picture on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm gonna write it for all it's worth.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Definitely do that. That's super cool, Stefan.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate the endorsement. And,
Yeah, thank you.
You're super cool, and you're the best.
Well, thank you. And I'll talk to you Thursday.
I'll talk to you Thursday.
All right, from
Cheers.
Hawaii.
From Hawaii, and I will be in Seattle.
All right. All right. Take care, Stefan.
Cheers, Jamie.